Florida made history again. 15 executions in a single year, a record. And the man who sealed that milestone? Norman Grimm, a 65-year-old from Pensacola who killed his next-door neighbor, a 41-year-old lawyer named Cynthia Campbell. It sounds like the setup for a nightmare. A friendly coffee invitation, an ordinary morning, and an outcome so brutal it shocked a community. Today, we dive deep into Grimm's dark past, the horrifying murder of Cynthia Campbell, the manhunt that followed, and his eventual execution. The 15th in Florida this year, nearly double the state's previous record. This is a story about trust, betrayal, and a life that ended far too soon. And it all started with a simple cup of coffee. On July 27, 1998, Cynthia Campbell's day began like any other. She called 911 after noticing a broken window at her home. Responding deputies found Norman Grimm outside, giving an excuse about a barking dog. He seemed harmless, almost friendly. He invited her over for coffee, multiple times. The deputy, seeing nothing overtly threatening, encouraged Cynthia to go. Minutes later, she accepted the invitation, and in doing so, walked straight into one of the most brutal crimes Pensacola would ever see. This wasn't just an unfortunate choice. It was the moment her life intersected with someone who had a history of violence, waiting to erupt. Inside Grimm's home, Cynthia's friendly gesture was met with unthinkable violence. Grimm attacked her with a hammer and a knife, bludgeoning her 18 times and stabbing her 11 times, mostly in her heart. It was an attack without mercy, premeditated and relentless. Court records described it as savagely brutal and senseless. Cynthia's life ended in minutes, her kindness met with unimaginable cruelty. Grimm's prior encounters with law enforcement that morning, including the deputy outside her house, made the horror even chilling. A neighbor who seemed harmless on the surface revealed a darkness beneath. But Grimm wasn't done. After the murder, Grimm wrapped Cynthia's body in carpet and sheets, attempting to conceal the crime. He dumped her in Pensacola Bay, probably thinking the water would hide the evidence. But 2 hours later, a fisherman's line snagged something unnatural: Cynthia's body. The discovery sent shockwaves through the local community. Commentators often remark on the audacity of such attempts to hide violence. In Grimm's case, it was almost as though he didn't understand the reach of law enforcement, or didn't care. This moment also marked the beginning of a nationwide manhunt as Grimm fled the state in an attempt to evade justice. After the murder, Grimm disappeared. Law enforcement launched a 4-day nationwide search. He was eventually found at a relative's home in Oklahoma. The manhunt highlighted how quickly someone could vanish even in a connected world. Authorities worked tirelessly, following leads and tips, until finally Grimm was apprehended without further incident. Even after capture, the question lingered. How had he managed to commit such a violent crime so close to law enforcement attention? And what drove him to such extremes? The answer, partially, would be revealed in court. At trial, the jury faced the grim reality of Cynthia Campbell's death. Gruesome photographs detailed the severity of the attack. Grimm offered no defense, presented no mitigating evidence, and made no attempt to explain or excuse his actions. The judge sentenced him to death, emphasizing the brutality and senselessness of the crime. Grimm's violent history, including prior kidnappings, home invasions, and attempted abductions of a 14-year-old, weighed heavily in the decision, underscoring the tragic consequences of repeated criminal behavior. It also raised questions about parole and monitoring, and whether more could have been done to prevent this tragedy. On Tuesday, October 28, 2025, Grimm was executed by lethal injection at 6:14 p.m. Eastern. He declined to give last words, simply responding, "No, sir." His last meal was detailed: fried pork chops, mashed potatoes with gravy, Brussels sprouts, banana cream pie, a chocolate milkshake, and a soda. A seemingly ordinary meal for an extraordinary and dark moment in Pensacola's history. This execution marked Florida's 15th this year, nearly double the previous single-year record. Grimm became the 41st person executed in the U.S. in 2025, a number not seen since 2012. It was a milestone, but one that was overshadowed by the life that had been lost years before. Cynthia Campbell was more than just a victim. She was a compassionate, driven woman. A Pittsburgh native, she initially trained as a nurse before a shoulder injury led her to law school. She dedicated herself to helping others and was known for her kindness and desire to support the underdog. Her parents, Ralph and Dorothea Campbell, spoke to the jury during the trial, urging them to remember their daughter as more than just a victim. "She has a face," Ralph said. "I would like you to know Cindy as a person," Dorothea added. Cynthia's story reminds us that behind every headline is a human life, full of potential and promise, lost far too soon. The Norman Grimm case is a stark reminder of how ordinary moments, a broken window, a neighborly invitation, can turn tragic in the hands of someone capable of extreme violence. Florida's record-breaking year of executions highlights not only the consequences for perpetrators, but the enduring pain for victims and their families. Cynthia's life was cut short, her kindness repaid with brutality. As we reflect on this story, the real question remains: how do we, as a society, balance justice, safety, and the memory of those lost? One cup of coffee should never end in tragedy. Yet, in Pensacola, that was the chilling reality.